Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Joburg Today. I'm your host, Leroy Viaggi. Transnet is a critical role player in transporting oil and gas to major markets, making it the most important link in the country's energy transportation network. The country's new multi-product pipeline, successfully commissioned early this month, will see the trunk line from Durban to Johannesburg upgraded to carry multiple petroleum products. Noshina chats to Transnet's Chief Capital Officer, Krishna Reddy, to understand more.
If you look at this pipeline, it's of national economic importance. As you know, one of the critical things for the growth of our economy is energy supply.
Sure.
So what this pipeline does is actually ensures that the inland area of the country has refined products as a source of energy. So when I talk about refined products, it's actually the motor vehicle that you drive, the petrol that you use, to industry in terms of use of diesel, to OR Tambo Airport, the jet fuel for all the planes that arrive and take off. They're all supplied by this pipeline.
Sure. Is it also regarded as a legacy project for Southern Africa? Is this project unrivaled, and to what degree, if yes?
If you look at the scale of the project, the technology that we've used, the design and the capacity it has for the future, it's a legacy project not just in South Africa, but Southern Africa.
Sure.
Because what we also do with this pipeline, we also use the pipeline to feed our neighboring countries as well with similar products. So from that perspective, you could see it as an integrated project for Southern Africa. I think we need to look at this, and just to set some context, we need to look at this as a mega program. And through this program, at various points, we've implemented certain capacity. So the actual main trunk line, which is a 24-inch pipeline from Durban to Heidelberg, was actually completed and commissioned in 2012. So since 2012, we've been actually supplying the inland area with diesel through that pipeline. So up to recent month, we've actually pumped 17 million liters of diesel for that period of time. The big milestone we've achieved now is that we can handle multi-products in that same pipeline. So beside diesel, we're also going to be able to handle your petrols. So your unleaded petrols in terms of 93 and 95 octane, as well as jet fuel, all can be pumped through the same pipeline.
Why is it more secure to transport these commodities via the pipelines?
First of all, I think if you look at from an economics perspective, with a volume of petrochemical products at the size that we're handling and the distance we're handling, the most economic way to transport that from a transport economic perspective is via pipeline. Secondly, if you just look at the volumes we're pumping, it takes off about 1,000 tankers off our roads traversing between Durban to Gauteng. So you can look at the various benefits in that regard, just from a perspective of the environment, in terms of safety of removing trucks off the roads, but also more importantly, what we do is it's less impacted in terms of security of supply. So there's less things that can go wrong on a pipeline than can happen if you imagine on trucks traversing a road. So safety perspective, from a cost perspective, from an environmental perspective, it's a much better solution for transporting of a very hazardous product over such a long distance.
Sure. I want to talk about the development of the pipelines from Heidelberg to the other various areas in Gauteng. Tell us about the process involved. From what we understand, thousands of jobs have been created. And I think also give us an overall sense of the positive knock-on effects it's had on communities where construction was taking place.
Yeah, so a lot of the network in the Gauteng area was actually completed around 2011, 2012. And this is a 16-inch pipeline compared to the trunk line, which is a 24-inch. And that, as I said, supplied the Gauteng area. I think the critical thing about the inland network, if you could say, is that, as I said, the distribution of petroleum products can be done via the pipeline. But what we did is on the entire project as a whole, a lot of the pipelines traverse to a number of rural areas as well as built-up areas. So a critical thing is in especially the rural areas where the pipeline traversed, we used a lot of local communities in terms of the construction activities. As part of the project, a key part of it was the corporate social investment that we made as part of our investments. So there's around 22 standalone projects that we've implemented during the program. These range from training schools for welders to the development of community centers to the refurbishments of creches, student accommodation,
So you've
and the
left
like.
these important footprints along the way.
Yes, so it was very important that we engage with the communities and actually involve them in the project. And I think the important thing as well, beside just the project, is leaving certain things that last in the communities. So apart from infrastructure and community halls and things that the community can use for a long time into the future, we also have the opportunity to skill some of the communities. So post this project, they have certain skills that they could use on other projects in the economy.
Sure.
So those are some of the things that, beside the actual physical infrastructure and the economic benefit, that we've left as a lasting benefit for the communities.
How do you secure your pipelines, your actual pipelines? Are there any concerns around pilfering, for example?
No, so I think maybe what we should say up front is, because of being an economic infrastructure, it's regarded as a key point for South Africa. So from that perspective, there's very stringent security measures that we have implemented. Security measures that are actually beyond normal norms in the industry.
Sure.
So the important thing is to note that the majority of the pipeline, in fact 99% of the pipeline, is actually buried underground. So you don't physically see the pipeline. So what you might see, route markers that identify the route of the pipeline, the actual physical location of the pipeline is not very well known. And that in itself provides a lot of security. But also with the technologies that we've implemented, we've got very stringent access control, CCTV camera footage that picks up various key points along the pipeline. There's regular monitoring systems that we have that all support and pick up if there's any issues.
Sure. Once you actually pump the commodities, the products through that pipeline, how much of oversight is needed?
There is a reasonable amount of oversight. We've got a national operations center that we've set up in KwaZulu-Natal that actually monitors the entire pipeline route. So there's things that are monitored in terms of critical dimensions, like your flow rates. For example, is measured. Any leakage on the pipeline is monitored. So there's continuous automated monitoring systems, as well as manual oversight that's undertaken. These technologies is the latest technology that's being used in the world. Our older pipeline didn't have similar sort of technologies. So in terms of the monitoring system, the security, from a safety point of view, we're actually employing the latest technologies from an automation perspective as well.
Very interesting subject. I could go on. But tell me, Krish, what has the feedback been like from your customers?
Look, I think everyone's been very positive. There's been I think it's been a long-awaited initiative. I think one must go back to 2005. In 2005, and a lot of our residents in Gauteng may remember, we had a thing called stockouts. And this is where the demand for petrol and diesel in Gauteng was far greater than we could supply. And that led to sort of a commission of inquiry called the Morani Commission. We then had the Department of Energy producing an energy supply, security of supply master plan. And what these things pointed to was the need to develop a integrated multi-product pipeline that can secure the supply to Gauteng, which is obviously our biggest economic hub for the continent, well into the future. And I think the important thing is, throughout the entire development of the project from 2008 to where we are now, never at any point did we compromise that primary objective. Some of it was because of bringing in capacity as we needed to, but the other important things that we also did do, I think from a Transnet perspective, we looked at an integrated transport solution. So where we had challenges where there wasn't adequate pipeline capacity, we managed to supplement that with rail transport for a certain period of time. So for example, to ensure security, some of our jet fuel that goes to our Tambo is not only done to the pipeline, but is also done via rail. So if there's any challenges on either mode, you have a backup mode. So I think that has been very successful. And I think our customers have been very proud of that because they're part of the solution as well.